My girlfriend texted, "I'm at the police station. I told them you hit me, so you'd come get me." She'd been arrested for DUI and wanted bail money. I replied, "I'll be there." Then I showed the officers our text history, proving she'd falsely accused me of domestic violence. When the prosecutor added filing a false report to her charges, I, 29 male, work night shifts as a respiratory therapist at a hospital. 3 12-hour shifts a week, Friday through Sunday, 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. I mention this because the timing of everything matters. My now ex-girlfriend and I had been together about 14 months. She's 27, works as an office manager at a dental practice. We didn't live together, but she spent most weekends at my apartment, or she used to, before my schedule changed to nights about 5 months ago. That schedule change is when things started going sideways. She didn't handle it well. Not the being alone part. She has friends, a social life. She's not helpless. What she didn't handle was the loss of control. She liked knowing where I was. She liked having me available on weekend nights for dinners, parties, whatever. When that stopped, the text started getting aggressive. "You chose this shift on purpose. You care about your job more than me. What's the point of having a boyfriend I never see on weekends?" I explained multiple times that the night shift came with a 12% differential, that I was paying off student loans, and that in respiratory therapy, you don't always get to pick your schedule. You take what's available and build seniority. She didn't care about any of that. What she cared about was that her friends' boyfriends were available on Saturday nights, and hers wasn't. Over the past 3 months, she'd also started going out more, which was fine. I literally encouraged it. "Go have fun. I'm working anyway." But the going out turned into heavy drinking. Not every weekend, but more than before. She'd text me at 2 a.m., slurring through voice messages, or call me during my shift to tell me she missed me, clearly wasted. A few times she got argumentative over nothing, picking fights via text while I was literally monitoring a patient on a ventilator. I tried to have the conversation about the drinking. It went about as well as you'd expect. Me, "I've noticed you've been drinking a lot more lately, and I'm a little worried." Her, "Oh, so now you're monitoring my drinking? From your little hospital? You're not my dad." Me, "I'm not trying to be. I'm just saying." Her, "Maybe I drink because my boyfriend is never around." Ever think about that? I dropped it. Shouldn't have, but I dropped it. Now, the night that changed everything. It was a Saturday about 3 weeks ago. I was 4 hours in my shift, around 11 p.m. Busy night. 2 patients on BiPAP, 1 post-intubation, the usual controlled chaos. My phone was in my locker because I can't have it on the floor during active patient care. When I checked my phone during my 3 a.m. break, I had 9 missed calls and a chain of texts. The first few were normal. "Out with the girls, miss you," a selfie at some bar. Then the tone shifted. 1:14 a.m., "Babe, I need you to come get me." 1:16 a.m., "I'm at the police station." 1:18 a.m., "They arrested me for DUI." 1:22 a.m., "I blew a .1 for their booking me." 1:31 a.m., "Hello? I need bail money." 1:38 a.m., "Why aren't you answering?" 1:52 a.m., "Okay, I told them you hit me last week, so they call you down here. They'll contact you soon, just come and bail me out, and it'll tell them I made it up." 1:53 a.m., "Don't be mad, it's the only way I could think of to get you here faster." I read that last text 3 times. Then I read it a 4th time. Then I sat down on the break room bench and felt my entire body go cold. She told the police I hit her. She fabricated a domestic violence accusation, casually, strategically, like she was placing a DoorDash order, because she wanted bail money and I wasn't answering my phone fast enough. Let me explain something that the comments might not immediately get. I'm a healthcare worker. I have a state license. A DV charge, even an accusation that gets investigated, can trigger a review by the licensing board. I could lose my ability to practice. My entire career, my degree, my loans, everything I've built. She put all of it at risk because she got a DUI at 1 a.m. and didn't want to wait until morning. My hands were shaking, but my head was clear. Clearer than it had ever been. Honestly, I responded to codes at work where a patient's oxygen drops to nothing and you have about 30 seconds to act. This felt like that. Same calm, same focus, same understanding that the next few decisions matter more than anything else. I screenshot every single text, the whole chain, from the miss you selfie to the I told him you hit me admission. I emailed the screenshots to myself. Then I emailed them to my personal backup email. Then I airdropped them to my iPad at home through my iCloud. 3 copies. Call me paranoid. I call it smart. Then I texted her back. I'll be there. Nothing else. Just that. Because I needed her to not delete those texts before I could get to the station. I told my charge nurse I had a family emergency and needed to leave early. She covered me. She's good people. I drove to the police station. It was about 3:40 a.m. when I walked in. Here's where I need to be honest about something. When I walked into that station, I was terrified. Not of my ex, of the system, because I know how this works. A woman says a man hit her and the machine starts moving. It doesn't matter that it's not true. It doesn't matter that I was at work with 20 witnesses and badge-in records proving I was nowhere near her. The accusation alone starts a process, and processes are hard to stop. I approached the front desk. There was an officer there, younger guy, maybe late 20s. I gave my name and said I'd been told to come in regarding a domestic situation. His demeanor changed immediately. Subtle, but noticeable. Straighter posture. Careful eyes. He was looking at me the way people look at someone they've been told is dangerous. Him. Yes, sir. Have a seat. Someone will be with you shortly. I sat down. About 10 minutes later, a detective came out. Older woman, no-nonsense energy. She introduced herself and asked me to step into an interview room. I went voluntarily. I know I could have asked for a lawyer immediately, but I had something better than a lawyer. I had the truth in my pocket. The detective started with standard questions. Where was I that evening? What was my relationship with my girlfriend? Had there been any physical altercations? Me, no. Never. Not once. Her. Your girlfriend has stated that you struck her during an argument last Tuesday. Me. I was working last Tuesday. I could provide my badge-in and badge-out records from the hospital. I worked a 12-hour shift from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. The detective wrote that down. Then she asked if I had any other information I wanted to share. Me. Yes, ma'am. I'd like to show you something on my phone. I opened the text chain. I handed her my phone. I watched her read. I watched her face. She got to the 1:52 a.m. text, the one where my girlfriend explicitly stated she'd lied about being hit to get me to the station, and the detective's expression didn't change much, but her eyes did this thing. This tiny narrowing, like a door closing. She excused herself. She was gone for about 20 minutes. When she came back, she had another officer with her and asked if I'd consent to them photographing the text. Messages on my phone for evidence. I said yes. Then the detective sat back down and said something I'll never forget. Mr., my last name, I want you to know that we take every DV report seriously. That's our job. But we also take false reports seriously. What your girlfriend described to us does not appear to be consistent with the evidence you provided, and her own text messages indicate the accusation was fabricated. We'll be forwarding this to the district attorney's office. I asked if I was free to go. She said yes. I asked what would happen with my girlfriend's case. She said that was up to the DA, but that the DUI charge would proceed and the false report would be evaluated as an additional charge. I drove home. It was about 5 a.m. I sat in my truck in the parking lot of my apartment complex for a long time. My dog was probably confused about why I was home early. I didn't go inside for maybe 30 minutes. I just sat there and stared at the steering wheel and processed the fact that the person I'd been sleeping next to for over a year had just tried to hand me a criminal record because she needed a ride. I didn't bail her out. She called her mother, who posted bail later that morning. I know this because her mother called me at 8 a.m. and left a voicemail that I'll get into in the update. That's the original post. More happened. A lot more. Update 1, 9 days later. Y'all, the comments on the first post were a lot. Thank you to everyone who said to get a lawyer. I did. More on that in a minute. First, the voicemail from her mother. I mentioned it and then left you hanging, so let me deliver. 8:07 a.m., the morning after everything happened. I hadn't slept. I was on my couch with my dog and a cup of coffee that I was too tired to drink. My phone rang, and it was her mom. I let it go to voicemail. Here's the gist. Hi, it's my ex's mom. I just picked her up from the station, and she told me everything. I don't know what happened between you two, but she's very upset, and she says you refused to come help her when she needed you. She has a drinking problem. I've known that for a while, but leaving her in a jail cell all night? That's cold. Whatever she said to the police, she was drunk and scared. People say things they don't mean. I think you two need to sit down and work this out like adults. Call me back. Know what's missing from that voicemail. Any acknowledgement that her daughter lied to the police about me being violent. Any concern about the impact on MY life. Any sense that what happened was anything more than a misunderstanding that I should help clean up. Classic. I didn't call her back. Day 2. I contacted a criminal defense attorney. Not because I've been charged with anything. I hadn't, but because my buddy at work, another RT, been in the field for 15 years, told me something smart. Brother, when someone accuses you of DV, you get a lawyer even if you're innocent. Especially if you're innocent. Because the system doesn't care about your innocence until someone with a law degree forces it to. The attorney was great. Mid-50s, been practicing criminal defense for decades. I showed him the screenshots. He read them, set his glasses on the desk, and said, "This is one of the most clear-cut false report cases I've ever seen." She texted you her confession in real time. Most people at least have the sense to lie verbally. He told me several things. 1. Keep the screenshots backed up in multiple locations. Done. 2. Do not contact my ex for any reason. 3. File a protective order. Not because I was afraid of her physically, but because it creates a legal record that I was the one seeking protection, which reframes the narrative if she tries to escalate. 4. Contact my licensing board proactively and disclose the false accusation before it shows up through any other channel. That last one scared me the most. Calling your own licensing board to say, "Hey, someone accused me of domestic violence, but it's false, and here's the proof," feels like calling the fire department to your own house. But the attorney said it was better to get ahead of it than to have it surface during a routine background check. I made the call. The board representative was professional, took my documentation, and noted it in my file as a reported false accusation with supporting evidence. She said it shouldn't affect my license as long as no charges were filed against me. So far, none have been. Day 4. The protective order was granted. Temporary at first. A judge reviews the evidence and grants a short-term order. Then there's a hearing for a longer one. My attorney filed it with the text screenshots as exhibits. The judge granted the temporary order without hesitation. Now here's where my ex started escalating. She couldn't contact me directly because of the protective order, so she used proxies. First, it was her mother again. Another voicemail, this one angrier. "You filed a restraining order against my daughter? She's the victim here. She was arrested and traumatized, and you're acting like she's the criminal. This is disgusting behavior from a grown man." "Ma'am, your daughter is the criminal." Literally, she was arrested for a DUI and then committed a second crime by filing a false police report. That's 2 crimes in one night. That's not trauma. That's Tuesday for someone without boundaries. I forwarded the voicemail to my attorney. Day 5. Her best friend texted me. This is a woman I'd met maybe 4 times at group dinners. Pleasant enough, never had an issue with her. Her text, "Hey, I know things are messy right now, but I think you're overreacting with the legal stuff." She was drunk and panicked. She didn't actually want you to get in trouble. Can you drop the restraining order so she can at least talk to you? She wants to apologize. Me, she told the police I committed a felony. That's not a drunk mistake. That's a decision. And no, her, you're really going to ruin her life over one bad night? Me, she blew a .14, drove drunk, got arrested, and then told law enforcement I beat her, so I come pay for her consequences. That's not one bad decision. That's a sequence of decisions, each one worse than the last. And the last one could have destroyed my career. I didn't ruin anything. I'm just not cleaning it up. She didn't respond. I screenshot that conversation too. Everything goes in the folder now. Day 7. The DA's office contacted my attorney. They'd reviewed the evidence, the text messages, my hospital badge records, the detective's report, and they were adding a charge of filing a false police report to my ex's existing DUI charge. In my state, that's a misdemeanor, but carries up to a year in county jail and a fine. More importantly, It creates a permanent record that she filed a false DV accusation. My attorney told me the DA was particularly motivated because false DV reports waste resources and make it harder for real victims to be believed. The prosecutor apparently said something like, "We don't see them admit it in writing very often. This one's not complicated." When my ex found out about the additional charge, she lost it. I know this because her mother escalated from voicemails to a handwritten letter mailed to my apartment. Yes, a letter, written on stationery with little flowers on the border. The letter said, among other things, that I was vindictive, that I was using the legal system to bully a young woman, and that her daughter made one mistake while intoxicated and doesn't deserve to have her future destroyed. The letter also contained this sentence, which my attorney said was remarkably unhelpful for their side. She only said those things because she knew the police would take a domestic violence claim seriously enough to contact you. She wasn't trying to press charges. So the mother, in writing on flower stationery, confirmed that her daughter knowingly exploited the DV system as a manipulation tactic, and she thought this was a defense. My attorney added the letter to the file. More in the final update. It gets worse before it gets better. Update 2. Final, 18 days later. All right, last update. This has been the longest month of my life, and I need to put it down and walk away from it. After the DA added the false report charge, things moved faster than I expected. My attorney told me that cases with clear documentary evidence, like, the defendant literally texting a confession, tend to move through the system more efficiently because there's less to argue about. But before we get to the legal resolution, I need to tell you about what happened in between because my ex and her family apparently decided that if the legal system wasn't going to go their way, they'd try a different approach. Day 10. Her father called me. First time I'd ever heard from this man. He'd been a background character the entire relationship. Quiet guy, seemed reasonable the 2 times I met him. He called from his own number, and I picked up because I didn't recognize it. Him. Son, I'm calling man to man. My daughter made a mistake. A bad one. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. But this false report charge is going to follow her for the rest of her life. She's got a career. She manages an office. A criminal record could. Me. Sir, I respect you reaching out. But your daughter told the police I committed domestic violence. If they'd taken her word and charged me, I could have lost my respiratory therapy license. That's my entire livelihood. My student loans, my career, everything gone. Because she wanted a ride home from jail. Him. I understand that. I do. But she was drunk. She wasn't thinking clearly. Me. She was thinking clearly enough to construct a specific lie. She didn't say I stole her car or broke her phone. She said I hit her. She chose the one accusation that would guarantee police involvement. That's not impaired judgment. That's strategy. Long silence. Him. Is there anything I can offer to make this go away? I'll cover your legal fees. Whatever it costs. Me. It's not my charge to drop, sir. It's the state's. The DA filed it, not me. And even if I could make it disappear, I wouldn't. Because the next time she's in a tough spot and decides to accuse someone of something they didn't do, it needs to be on her record that she's done this before. I'm not just protecting myself. I'm protecting the next guy. He thanked me for my time and hung up. Honestly, I felt bad for him. He seemed like a decent man dealing with the fallout of his daughter's choices. But feeling bad for someone's father doesn't mean absorbing their consequences. Day 12. Something happened that I genuinely didn't see coming. My ex's attorney, she'd hired a private defense lawyer by this point, contacted my attorney with a proposal. My ex would plead guilty to the DUI if the DA dropped the false report charge. Her lawyer's argument was that the false report was made under duress of intoxication and that pursuing it was excessive. My attorney relayed this to me and then relayed it to the DA. The DA said no. Not because of me. I had no say in it, but because, and I'm paraphrasing what my attorney told me, the prosecutor felt that dropping false report charges sends the wrong message about the credibility of DV claims. The DA's office had been specifically tracking false report cases as part of a broader initiative to protect the integrity of the DV reporting system. My ex's case, with its textbook evidence, was apparently exactly the kind of case they wanted to prosecute. So the deal was rejected. My ex was going to face both charges. Day 15. The protective order hearing. This was the first time I'd seen my ex since the night everything happened. I won't pretend that wasn't hard. She looked different, thinner, tired. She was sitting with her lawyer and her mother. Her father wasn't there. Her mother glared at me from across the room like I'd set fire to her house. I didn't make eye contact. The hearing itself was straightforward. My attorney presented the text messages, the timeline, the badge record from a hospital, the mother's letter. Yes, the flower stationery letter was entered as evidence, and I almost felt bad about how embarrassing that must have been for her attorney, and the judge granted a 1-year protective order. My ex's lawyer tried to argue that the protective order was unnecessary because my ex had no history of violence or threats. My attorney calmly pointed out that she'd fabricated a violence accusation to manipulate law enforcement, which demonstrated a willingness to weaponize the system, and that the protective order was necessary to prevent further false accusations. The judge agreed. After the hearing, in the hallway, her mother approached my attorney. Not me. She couldn't approach me, and said, "I hope he's happy. He's destroyed my daughter's life over a text message." My attorney, who I've decided is the most composed human being alive, replied, "Ma'am, your daughter destroyed her own life over a text message. My client just made sure it was documented." Day 22. The criminal case resolved. My ex took a plea deal, but not the one she wanted. She pleaded guilty to the DUI and no contest to the filing of false report charge. The no contest plea means she didn't admit guilt but accepted the conviction. Her attorney probably told her it was the best she was going to get, and he was right. Sentencing for the DUI: 1 year probation, mandatory alcohol education classes, 80 hours of community service, license suspended for 6 months, and an ignition interlock device on her car for a year after she gets her license back. Standard stuff for a first DUI with a .14 BAC. Sentencing for the false report: an additional year of probation running concurrent with the DUI probation, a $2,000 fine, and, this is the part that matters most, it goes on her criminal record. Permanently. She now has a documented conviction for filing a false police report related to domestic violence. If she ever accuses anyone of DV in the future, this conviction will be discoverable. If she ever applies for a job that requires a background check, this will appear. My attorney told me afterwards that the false report conviction would be especially significant because of the context. It wasn't a generic false report. It was specifically a false DV claim. Some employers, licensing boards, and even family courts take that very seriously. Now, here's where I land on all of this emotionally, because I think honesty matters. I don't feel triumphant. I know the comments are probably going to say things like justice served and she got what she deserved, and maybe she did. But sitting in that courtroom and watching someone I used to love get sentenced felt awful. Not because she didn't earn it. She absolutely did. Every consequence she received was the direct result of choices she made. But it still felt awful because I remember the person she was at the beginning, or the person I thought she was, and reconciling that with the person who had lied to police about being beaten just to get bail money is a kind of grief that doesn't have a clean name. I went home after the sentencing, and my dog met me at the door, and I sat on the kitchen floor with him for a while. He doesn't know about any of this. He just knows I was gone, and now I'm back, and that's enough for him. I needed that simplicity. A few practical things to wrap up. My licensing board closed their file on me with no action taken. The false accusation is noted and resolved. My license is clean. I went back to night shifts the following week, and my charge nurse, who'd cover for me the night this all started, just nodded at me when I walked in and said, "Glad you're back." That was exactly the right amount of acknowledgement. My ex, and I will never speak again. The protective order ensures that for the next year, and after that, I have no intention of ever being in the same room as her. I don't hate her. Hate requires energy I don't have. I'm just done. Her mother sent one final letter. Not to me, but to my parents' address, which she must have gotten from wedding invitation drafts or something, because my ex and I had casually talked about future plans. The letter told my parents I was a cold, heartless man who threw away a good woman over a misunderstanding. My mom read it, put it in the recycling bin, and called me to say, "If that woman contacts us again, I'm calling the police." Also, are you eating enough? You sound tired. Moms, man. One last thing. Through all of this, the thing that keeps circling in my head is how easy it was for her. How casually she typed that text. I told them you hit me, so they'd call you down here. Like it was a life hack. Like she'd found a clever workaround to a logistics problem. She didn't hesitate. She didn't consider for even a second what that accusation could do to me. And that's what scares me most. Not that she did it, but that it cost her nothing to try. The lie was free. The consequences were supposed to be mine. If you're reading this and you've ever been falsely accused of something, document everything. Screenshot everything. Back it up in 3 places. Get a lawyer before you think you need one. And don't let anyone tell you that protecting yourself is overreacting. It's not. It's surviving. I go back to work tonight. 12-hour shift. Patients who need help breathing. That's real. That's something I can hold on to. The rest of this, all of it, is just noise that's getting quieter by the day. Thanks for reading. Take care of yourselves.